Persistent organic pollutants, or POPs for short, are man-made chemicals that are toxic to the environment and human health. Their production and use are regulated by the Stockholm Convention on POPs, and their concentrations in the environment are monitored. The monitoring activities are specified by the Global Monitoring Plan of the Stockholm Convention, which provides a harmonized framework for the collection of comparable and representative monitoring data on POPs around the world in order to identify changes in their concentrations over time and regional and global environmental transport. The outcomes collected in harmonized protocols serve the purposes of effectiveness evaluation of the Stockholm Convention. For the Global Monitoring Plan, countries and scientists have agreed to sample ambient air and human tissues as core matrices. For ambient air, typically passive samplers are used. For human tissues, human milk or human blood are used. And for one of the POPs, PFOS, water was added as a new core matrix. The monitoring includes sampling in the field and the analysis of chemicals in a dedicated laboratory. The basic information for POPs monitoring is described in the document Guidance on the Global Monitoring Plan for Persistent Organic Pollutants, coordinated by the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions. For ambient air, this guidance document contains the experiences from several monitoring programs using both active and passive sampling. The United Nations Environment Programme uses this guidance for its global monitoring plan projects in Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean regions. This training film, produced for the Chemicals Branch of the United Nations Environment Programme, will guide institutions and countries using passive air samplers for the monitoring of ambient air smoothly through all the stages of the preparation of polyurethane foam, or PUF, discs before use in the field. The PUF is a sorbent suitable to capture all 23 POPs listed in the Stockholm Convention: basic POP pesticides, indicator polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, dioxin-like POPs, brominated flame retardants, and PFOS. We will now take you through procedures for the preparation of the PUF discs, their cleaning, and mounting in the samplers in the field. Passive air samplers and polyurethane foam discs have been used in UNEP Global Environment Facility regional projects in Asia Pacific, Africa, and Latin American regions. 3 types of samplers have been used: the MONET sampler in Africa, from the monitoring program run by RECETOX, the GAP sampler in the Pacific Islands, from the monitoring program run by Environment Canada, and the CESIC sampler in the GRULAC region, from the Spanish National Research Council. It is not important which type of passive sampler is used to sample the air, as all 3 samplers give comparable results, but it is very important to know and record characteristics of the PUF disc. The passive air sampler usually consists of 2 stainless steel bowls to form a protective chamber for the sorbent. The bowls are attached to a vertical axis in the MONET and CESIC samplers and attached by other means in the GAP sampler. The sorbent is thus sheltered against wet and dry atmospheric deposition, wind, and UV light. Let's explore the PUF disc in greater detail. Discs are usually made of white, non-colored foam. It is a relatively inexpensive and commercially available material, for example from Tisch Environmental, Gumotex, Molitan, and other companies worldwide. The PUF material can come in a sheet that is then cut into discs using a template with a defined thickness of 1.5 centimeters and diameter of 15 centimeters and a small hole in the middle. Discs are stored in the dark before further treatment. In addition, pre-cut PUF discs are also commercially available. We need to ensure that both cut and purchased PUF discs are the right size, are clean, and that its characteristics are known. This is important for both blank levels and for capturing low levels of target chemicals during exposure in the field. All discs are wrapped in aluminum foil and cleaned in Soxhlet extractors in a set of solvents chosen according to the group of POPs that is targeted for sampling. Wrapping the sorbent in aluminum foil prevents dramatic change of disc size when rinsed by boiling solvent and reduces risk of breaking the extractor. There are several sizes of extractors that can hold between 2 and 8 puff discs each. The amount of the solvent used in each step depends on the size of the extractor, but in general it ranges between 500 and 2,000 milliliters per extractor. All discs are first extracted for 8 hours in acetone. Then, a second step is applied based on which pops are targeted for sampling and analysis. Please make sure you squeeze the wrapped discs when changing the solvents. Puffs extracted for 8 hours in dichloromethane are appropriate for pop pesticides and 6 congeners of indicator PCBs. Puffs extracted for 8 hours in toluene are appropriate for polybrominated diphenyl ethers, dioxin-like pops, which are 12 congeners of dioxin-like PCBs, 17 PCDDs, and PCDFs. Finally, puffs extracted in methanol are aimed at capturing PFAS and its precursors. After extraction, wet discs are allowed to cool and are taken to the heated fume hood in their wrapping, unwrapped in the fume hood, and dried overnight. Then, a cleaned stainless steel insert, 15 mm length, is placed in the middle of each disc. This ensures that its position is fixed when placed into the sampler for Monnet or Sesic type samplers. Each disc with insert is wrapped in 2 layers of aluminium foil. The date of cleaning and type of cleaning, solvents, are noted with permanent marker on the package. The labeled wrapped disc is placed in a Ziploc polyethylene bag, excess air is removed, and the bag is closed. Clean discs are stored in a freezer at -18 degrees Celsius prior to deployment. Please note that puff discs used in UNEP GEF capacity building monitoring projects are delivered already pre-cleaned and ready to be used. Now we will show you what is to be done in the field. To mount the samplers or exchange a puff disc, additional equipment is needed. Samplers, gloves, utensils, a cooler box, paper tissues, 2 17 mm wrenches, aluminium foil, sampling protocols, a permanent marker or pen, or stickers, plastic bags, cleaned puff discs from the freezer, ethanol, and a hinge to mount the sampler. If a hinge is not available, then add a rope or wire to hang, mount, or install the sampler on the site. All parts of the sampler that are made from stainless steel do not require special service. However, removal of dirt and surface cleaning by ethanol are needed on all surfaces during the puff disc exchange or a first deployment. Excess ethanol should be wiped off with a tissue. Take the bag containing the clean puff disc out of the cooler box and mark the date and type of cleaning on the sampling protocol. Deploy a field blank. Then unpack another clean puff disc from the aluminum foil and mount it on the axis of the sampler using gloves. Avoid touching the disc with bare hands to prevent contamination. Add pads, distance tubes, and nuts and close the sampler. Make sure you add a safety nut and a safety hook to protect the sampler from falling apart due to vibrations caused by strong winds. This also stabilizes the sampler in a vertical position. Before leaving the site, make sure you also record the date and time of sampling start onto the sampling protocol and collect the field blank, which you treat as an exposed disc. Use the hook on the top of the sampler or a climbing carabiner or other device and mount the sampler on the hinge. If there is no hinge, use wire or rope and attach it to a metal construction or an unobstructed tree branch about 2 meters above the ground. Passive samplers should remain in the field for 3 months. Exposed discs are removed by reversing the installation steps. Avoid contact between the disc and the sampler and use gloves to prevent contamination. Exposed discs are wrapped, labeled, and placed in a bag into a cooler box. Label the wrapped disc on the top of the foil with the date of removal, site name, sample ID, and protocol number using a permanent marker or sticker. Record all the necessary information on the sampling protocol and transport the disk to the laboratory. Store it in a freezer until analysis. Pre-treatment and analyses will be performed by the established and validated laboratory methods used in an individual laboratory. Resulting data will be ready for use in the global monitoring plan.